Just another example of people around the world rising to the occasion to do whatever is necessary to help. But this story also highlights the challenges faced by the most vulnerable people during a viral pandemic. In addition to our elderly populations, we also know that people with compromised immune systems are also highly susceptible to infection. Paul Anthony is a Grammy Award-winning hip-hop artist and producer, as well as a two-time cancer survivor, and he knows what it's like to have to live with vigilance. He joins me now. And now joining me is Grammy Award-winning musician and producer, a legend, if you will, in the game, Paul Anthony. Paul, how are you?
How are you, Richard? It's great to be here. How are you, sir?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, because as we've gone through this, all of us with our sort of individual relationships, professional relationships, we're all asked that a lot, right? How are you? We always default to, oh, we're good, we're fine. These times have been a little different. It's kind of, relatively speaking, you're all right.
Yeah.
For most people, this has been a challenge because of the isolation, because of the social distancing, because of worrying about their immune system being compromised and potentially contracting a virus. It's a new normal. But for some of us, like yourself, this isn't new, because you've been dealing with this and these types of conditions for a while. Talk about your personal experience and how this new normal for you has actually been something you've been used to.
Yeah, it's amazing in a way. Sometimes some things just come about and remind you what you've been through, and it's very much like the first cancer. I see myself as a cancer champion, and one of the phrases I use is the cancer survivor walks the earth, but the cancer champion conquers the world. And my first cancer, it was diagnosed in 2006, and it's called mantle cell lymphoma. And I'll never forget it, because I was actually in the gym training, and I was squatting like 4 or 5 for like 10 reps, and I felt nothing, absolutely nothing, until my training partner, who's a nurse also on the front line, Colin, again, he noticed a lump in my neck. I didn't even feel it, but I looked and I'm like, wow. And that's when I went in, and that's when they told me it's mantle cell lymphoma, a very lethal non-Hodgkin's disease.
Wow.
And that was the first one. So after I did my first bone marrow transplant and autologous, I went on with my life. And I've always been an advocate of the mind, body, and spirit connection, always. So I believe he gives his toughest battles his toughest words. So I prepared for that. So it came back five years later, and it came back obviously a lot more stronger. And it gave me myelodysplastic syndrome and eventually acute myeloid leukemia. So when I did the various rounds of chemotherapy for that, and when my doctor was saying, okay, right now it's life or death and everything, I was already mentally preparing what I was going to do when I came through it and when he positioned me to do some special things. But after that treatment, I had to have my second bone marrow transplant, which is an allogenic transplant. Courtesy of my brother Lou, because with Full Force, my group were all very close with brothers and cousins. After that transplant, for the next, I'd say 8 months to a year, I could not set foot outside without a mask and gloves. During the transplant, I had to live in reverse isolation on the floor at Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital. So, and I call it physical distancing. Physical distancing is it's not uncommon what's going on right now, so I had to do the mask and gloves, I had to distance, I had to be isolation, and you had to be smart and do all the things, wash your hands. A lot of it is common sense. And then after that, you have to just, it's going to sound crazy, but you have to almost embrace it, because it's here. And then when you do that, you take away the fear of it and you do what you have to do, So this is not unfamiliar territory at all.
Well, and it's interesting, because I'm sure, if we went back in time and visited that Paul Anthony, who's obviously going through this incredibly difficult, not once, but twice experience, and then now having to really live an entirely different life that feels, sort of limited, potentially scary. And then fast forward, X amount of years to now, you have people reaching out to you that know your experience with isolation, with wearing gloves, which during the coronavirus period in the COVID-19 pandemic, you become not just a source of inspiration, but a source of guidance. Talk about how people reached out and how you were able to help them.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, and I'm glad that the universe has given me the opportunity to be necessary. People have been reaching out ever since I put my cancer journey on television, on TV One's Unsung. I've had literally hundreds of thousands of people around the world reach out to me just to share, engage, and just, influence on what I've been doing. So now when this came, people reached out because they remember seeing me post photos of me with my mask and my gloves and my IV and my catheter in my chest, and going through and training in my room just before every transplant and every transfusion. So when people reach out, I just engage and tell them the things that I did, which was, of course, drinks lots of water, stay proactive, and stay mentally and spiritually engaged on what's going on. But be fearless. You have to dig down deep and know that sometimes you have to go through to get through. So I just give them that mixture of what I did, from what you eat, from what you think about, to how you breathe. There's so many tools that we have that we can use, to fight this incredible virus. It's elusive, it's patient, and we have to be very smart with it.
Well, speaking of fighting this virus, not only have you been helping people, but you've also been connected to somebody very close to you, obviously, who's out there literally fighting the virus on the front lines. Your daughter, Symphony. Talk about her experience. I know you're probably caught up between being proud and being worried. How has this experience been for you?
Yeah, it's something. It's special because she's, as her mother Kay says, Symphony's very much like you. She's very fearless, and sometimes we have to be very careful with that. And I'll talk to her. I just spoke to her a few moments ago, and she's working from home. I was like, good, thank you. But normally she's right there. She works at a very, very active facility in the Bronx, and she's on the front line. And one day I had a conversation with her, and she's like, oh yeah, Dad, I'm on my 14-day quarantine. I'm pretty sure I have it, but I'll get through this and just get out there. We got to, help as much people as we can. I'm like, oh man, she sounds too much like me. I'm
Wow.
worried now. But she's out there, and just touching lives and saving lives. So I just stay prayerful and ask her to be careful what she's doing. And she's surrounded by a lot of people that are that same mentality. So we have to give care and love for them because they are out there. It's so many of them.